And we are live.
Do it live. Welcome to Nerdarchy, blah, blah. You know the deal.
It seems pointless to introduce ourselves at this point because this should be more or less, this should be our patrons watching this or people that snuck in from the last live chat because apparently there's a way to do that as well, I think.
So you probably already know who we are, what we're talking about, yada, yada, yada. So let's dive.
Well, they don't know what we're talking about.
Well, I mean,
they know who we are.
They know who we are, and they know we talk about 5th edition, blah. You know, so let's dive into what we have for the question.
And we mean that blah with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm for you guys. Blah, 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 blah. I do not say blah, 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 blah,
blah. So you didn't actually send me who this is from. You just sent me the message. So I'm going to read this out, and in the meantime, he's going to talk about who this is from. It says, "Hello, I'm a huge fan of the channel. I have an idea for a campaign where it is a Dragon Ball style tournament where you can level up by winning matches. I intend for it to begin as one-on-one matches leading into challenges and team combat. I would appreciate any tips or advice you may have on this. The things that they have worked out, leveling requires winning a match or special training. Matches will be non-lethal, at first anyway. The reward will be a single request granted by the God Emperor. If a player gets knocked out of the game, their new character will be another tournament entry. They will be able to build this character, of course. Activities outside of the tournament fights will occur, and cheating will be allowed if they can get away with it. There will be no restrictions on class, race, or background from official material. Thank you."
It's from Ray Ray.
So thank you, Ray Ray, for submitting this question. And as an actual fan of Dragon Ball Z, there's definitely a lot of takeaway. So like I would think like you would have small tournaments which would be able to allow you to level up and progress, but there should be every so often a main tournament where I would structure this if you're planning to do like a long campaign arc. These could be your your tier changes when you move to a new proficiency modifier, or whether you want to break them up by certain level gaps for whatever reason, and that would be like the end of a major arc. So like if you look at each thing being like a season, and each major arc is how I would approach it. And with each story arc, each season within Dragon Ball, you have essentially a new opponent. So that becomes your challenge. If I need to do this and I need to be stronger, I need to be able to best them. So you've got the ability to introduce who your adversary is, be able to have missions and things that go where you might be able to obtain, this is one of their secret moves, or this is, one of their strengths or weaknesses, and things that are related to the overall tournament, the overall thing that's going on. But you're not fighting them yet because you're not gonna win, that kind of thing.
I would look at boxing, gladiatorial combat, and wrestling, right? So this way you can have things like persuasion and intimidate be really useful because you do like a lot of hyping up into the match. So like I would have like each session would, the culmination is a match, right? But you could have like the prologue before it where this is a time to, the players will typically be in the tavern, or maybe they're doing recon on their opponent, like you said, or there could be some things leading up to, trying to get to the match. Like maybe the opponent tries to sabotage or set them up so they don't get there on time, so they get disqualified. But you can have like these mini adventures that happen before the actual match itself, and that's where you could use the pillars of social and exploration from D&D to take part there. And then the actual match, obviously that's where the combats are going to be. And then you have the wrap up, kind of like the prologue. What is the fallout from that match? What does that mean for the group, for the people that participated, for the opponents? If it is a lot of matches where they aren't always to the death, that could be interesting. And you could have foils and adversaries and you know, essentially enemies. But then, like, over the progression of the campaign per se, you know, you can have that change in order depending, you know.
So they could become frenemies and then friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, you could
grudging respect for each other.
You could totally drop in the.
I think wrestling is just like a great way to look at. I mean, that would be the most fun, and because it's over the top and ridiculous.
Apollo Creed. I keep wanting to say Victor Creed. I'm like, no, that's Sabretooth. But like, you know, the whole Rocky,
you can do that
the whole Rocky, progression where, like, you know, he challenges Apollo Creed. He loses, then he wins. You know, then they wind up becoming, you know, trainers and friends, and, you know, like, you've got this cool story, and it could very well, you could literally copy that, because it is a fantastic story arc. So it's like, okay, you know, you challenge, you become friends, he helps train, and then because of another match, that character winds up dying. It's just an NPC. It's not that, you know, not too, you know, egregious, but, you know, that could be your spur for why you have to re-enter the tournament and win, and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for arcs like that, and it could be a totally fun, you know, thing to do. I don't know how long I would want to do that for, but if I did do it, I would want to be ridiculous, silly, and over the top. That's what would make it enjoyable for me, not so much as we're going to play this as a serious campaign.
Yeah, I would want to approach this as a little bit over the top, and I tell you, brother, you know, like, you have to come up with
like, maybe the first round of combat, like, maybe you do skill challenges before you ever even get to the match, and, you know, if you, depending on whether you win or lose, determines on whether you have an advantage in the beginning of the match or not. You know, maybe in the middle of the match you do skill challenges, right, to psych up the crowd, and if you get the crowd on your side, you can totally, like,
I definitely
get benefits and bonuses.
I definitely like that. I would have to come up with a whole like,
I would be like, you know, because the energy of the crowd.
So I would want to come up with a whole system, you know, on you know, crowd.
Yes.
You know, and how like, you've got a pool that you've got the ability to work with, and depending upon how much hype you have, you know, what you can, you know, turn that in for. It's like, okay, you know, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do this, or, you know, any of these kind of things, and it might build the pool a little bit. And depending upon, like, where your like, I would go off the wall. I would make a whole system, and, you know, totally dive into this. But yeah, that's the direction I would wind up going. I love that idea, Dave.
It's the only way to do it. So the Doctor 534 has a question. How do you guys feel about proficiency bonus equals about the number of attunement slots a character can have?
So we've kind of talked about this before, and 6 attunement slots is a little crazy considering, you know, some of the stuff that you can put in those attunement slots. So if you're as long as you're controlling what you're giving out there and not just having, like, a magic item shop that people can buy whatever they want and they've got a ridiculous amount of gold, you know, then it's okay. But the second that you start stacking bonuses that all focus on a particular aspect of the game, like your save DC, you know, or your saving throw bonuses, like, oh yeah, I'm 6th level, or I have, you know, I'm 17th level, and all of my attunement slots are, you know, rings of protection. Well, a +1 or +6 to your armor class and to your saving throws is ridiculous.
Yeah, those are definitely some considerations to keep in mind.
So that's the way I would look at it. But I mean, like I said, if you're controlling what is going out there and limiting particular aspects, specifically DCs, saving throws, armor class, then I have no problems with it. I mean, I've put items in my game that really should require attunement, and I don't worry about that aspect.
Well, that's something I was going to talk about. Like, I feel like there's probably a lot of players from earlier editions that are like, they're probably like us, where they have mixed feelings about the attunement slots. Like, it's great as a game balancer. It's really good because we've seen earlier editions of the game where there were no limits on how many magic items you could have, or you could have one per body slot.
Right.
You know, and then which has progressed to 3 attunement slots. So you can have as many magic items as you want, but you can only be attuned to 3 at a time. Many don't require attunement, many do. And then, like, I would say, part of, like, how we've addressed it in our games is by throwing in magic items, or actually just giving out magical boons, or increasing the power of a particular magic item, is how we as GMs have worked around the attunement slot. There's the Artificer, which I believe gets more.
They get one more.
It's not one more. I think they end up with quite a few more, but then they also end up like getting bonuses to their saving throws from it as well. Oh. And then because I feel like they got up to a 5, which is huge, because you're getting a +5 to all your saves,
right?
Including the ones you're already good at. But then that's not even bringing up the thing that you said. What if they go, well, you know what? I'm only doing items of protection, another +5 to all my saves. It's a +10 plus your modifier, plus if you're good at it. And do you have a paladin in the party? You know what I mean? So like these are the kind of things you have to think of. But yeah, and then even more so, that +5 to armor class all the time is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So I mean, it really comes down to how much are you going to specifically, pay attention to that aspect. It's like, oh well, I really want these cool things, but they're not going to give me anything mechanically superior, but it requires attunement, and I have to suffer this other effect just to get this cool magic item. There's times they're like, all right, well, let's let that slide, or there's ways, and I know people have talked about there being oh, can you have a feat that gives you an extra attunement slot. I honestly I think the attunement slot per proficiency bonus or proficiency modifier does seem to work, but you have to just you have to GM it. You have to be the parent and making sure that you're not allowing somebody to break your game.
Oh, I know why we have so many people in here today. I probably forgot to switch it to unlisted so they can find it. I'll switch it to unlisted after we're done. And if you are in here watching right now and you're not a patron, yes, you should feel guilty. I'm messing with you. It's all good.
But
we love all the fans.
But if you wanna go over and check out the Patreon, we would appreciate it.
Absolutely. So no big deal. So we are just taking more questions than maybe we normally get to. These have less of a theme. And we don't have a time limit for how long that we're actually going to be doing these. So basically, we might do it for a half hour, 15 minutes, an hour, 5 hours. Who knows?
I doubt it's going to get to 5 hours because in a little over 2 hours, we're going to be sitting down for my session 0 for the new game that's going to be starting tonight. The new game that will be starting, but tonight is the session 0. And I got to clear all this, camera stuff out of the way and put these seats up and cram 7 players around this table.
It's funny. Justin Harris question: favorite wrestlers? Also, what are your favorite legendary artifacts? That's an interesting combination. So, I watched wrestling up until I was probably like in the 6th grade or so. Saturdays used to be a terrible, terrible day in my household for my younger brother, because first you had wrestling, right, and then after wrestling there was kung fu theater. And all that was after Saturday morning cartoons, right? So I'm totally amped up, and then finally we'd like finish it off with Monster Theater, and you'd have like the Godzilla and King Kong movies. So my poor brother, he would have to have wrestling moves done to him. Then he'd have to have kung fu moves done to him. It was a terrible, terrible day for him. And, like, I remember being fond of, like, Hacksaw Jim Duggan and George the Animal Steel. Like, some of you people may not even know how many of these people are.
I loosely know these names. I was never a fan of wrestling. And in elementary school...
Come on, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Like
I said, I loosely know these names. But I never watched them, never particularly cared for them. I had a friend in... elementary school, maybe even middle school, and Rob wound up becoming obsessed with wrestling. And the one night, like, I had asked him to stay over, and he's like, "All right, it's Monday Night Raw. I have to watch wrestling when it's on. So as long as I'm allowed to watch that, I'll come over and stay the night." wound up, it was a rerun, but he still had to watch it because he was that obsessed. And I think that wound up being the straw that actually broke our friendship.
As it should be.
Because it was so obsessed. But, you know, with some of the particular things that I remember, you know, I mean, you can't go wrong with Hulk Hogan and, you know, for the...
You're just going to pull out all the names everybody know, huh?
Well,
Hulk Hogan
and Macho Man Randy Savage. You know,
did they have a Slim Jim commercial or not?
if I had to pick things that I liked, you know, yeah, those were the two that I would go. Now, I happen to share a birthday.
The Ultimate Warrior.
I know the name. Was he the guy with the ribbons on his biceps?
He was.
I happen to share a birthday with Hulk Hogan, so you know that's kind of one of the reasons why I like that.
King Kong Bundy, man. Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant. How could you not like him? I mean, he was in one of my favorite movies.
There you go, Princess Bride.
So.
Yeah, I kind of grew out of it. I remember though, I did almost kill my brother Jeremy.
Was that when you slammed him into the heater?
No, that was totally. He had a terrible childhood. I was such an asshole. No,
I used the term "was."
What more? Well, look, I haven't pile drived anyone, in years. I grabbed him and said, "Come here, let me see something." And I grabbed him and did a pile driver.
Oh my god!
I don't recommend. There's a reason why there's a warning now when you watch. I say, "Oh my god, he jumped up, he grabbed his ass and his head at the same time." I was like, "Oh my god, don't tell mom, don't tell mom, don't tell mom." I'm gonna go to hell for being his brother, pretty much. It was terrible. We were chasing. You were talking about when we were running around the house, and he tripped and fell. Or maybe I tripped him. I don't remember. And he fell hands first on the kerosene heater.
Those things are hot.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah. There was another time that he got maybe pushed out of a tree fort, and he went to catch himself, and there was a nail sticking out, and like his whole palm was just like hanging by a thread. So he had to go to the ER, and I think they sewed it back on. There was another time. There's these kids that are really being jerks, and they were on top of like an abandoned garage, and they were ripping off the shingles and throwing them at them. He might have or might not have got stitches and almost lost his eye. It was terrible. It was terrible. The 80s were really a rough time to grow up and live in our neighborhood anyway.
Little different where I was.
He survived.
He did survive.
They're still talking wrestlers. Junkyard Dog. Oh, that was a good one too. Jake the Snake Roberts. Obviously, there's the Road Warriors, Animal, and Hawk. Undertaker
we went through like 17 different personalities and different actual actors to portray him. I might be exaggerating, but I know it was a lot.
Now I have a higher respect for you. You shouldn't. I was terrible. I was an awful person. I carry a lot of guilt to this day. Oh man, I remember our friend Larry. Who moved into our neighborhood later. Like, he was a military family, moves around a lot. Our neighborhood was very, very white, and he was vaguely ethnic looking, and we gave him so much crap. Now he's a kung fu master and would beat all of our asses, but...
Well, maybe that's why. It's like, oh, you got something to say now?
I really feel terrible about the 80s in that regards. There was a couple. Could you guys discuss sci-fi settings and how you might go about making a quadrant of the galaxy to play a campaign in? This is Savage Worlds, last parsecs, but system likely doesn't matter.
All right, so you use quadrant, so to me that immediately jumped to Star Trek. So they're like, that would be a game that would be very, very highly based on, your social and your exploration pillar. A lot of skill rolls, a lot of role playing, and given my my predilections for favorite pillars to work with, I think that would be a really fun and enjoyable game. If I were to do it, I would totally want to jump to a Voyager-esque kind of thing where it's like, hey, you don't have any one of your anyone to back you up. It's all on you and how you can, survive through all the different issues. To me, that would be a really, really fun way to play it. But I mean, the two big names in sci-fi are going to be Star Trek and Star Wars. And regardless of which version of Star Wars you're going to play, I mean, if you're going to play Star Wars. Use the Fantasy Flight Games rules and play Star Wars, and there's a lot of great material out there for it. There are literally source books that are not actually D&D or gaming source books that are there. Essential Guide to Planets and Moons, Essential Guide to Characters, Essential Chronology, Essential Guide to Alien Species. So, I mean, there are plenty of books that can teach you how to exist and play in Star Wars without them actually being, related to a system.
Yeah, my only problem with that is fuck Jedi.
Well, I mean, absolutely, you've got the ability to play that game and exist outside of the things with the Force. I honestly think, what was the red one? Age of Rebellion, or Edge of the Empire, not the red one, the white book. Actually, is a really great place to play a dirty, gritty game. You can play bounty hunters. You can play a survivalist games. You're existing out on the fringes, and you're not part of the rebellion. You're not part of the Empire. You're mercenary, you're third party, and you've got so much that you can you can look and you can play with. You want to take any of the blanket games that are out there, whether it be Fate or Cipher System. I'm sorry. There's so many rule sets, here
surrounding you
that surround me that are, really good. Sometimes they just jump out of my head. And you could really import into any world that you have in your head or you already like. Right now, because of some different things that I've seen, I've kind of got a little bit of Firefly on the brain. And, well, yes, over there behind Dave, there is a Firefly, system if you want to RPG that up. But you could import that into, any of those games. I think, Fate or Cipher System would make a great way to play those games.
I think they're using Savage Worlds, which is also a kind of an open-ended system. I
don't have any experience with Savage, so I can't really talk to that
I played Torg, which I believe has a heavy influence, or actually, I should say Savage Worlds has a heavy influence from the original Torg game.
Okay.
So I think I've seen a little bit of it, but I would look at, like, someone, Draconis mentioned Babylon 5, which I think is a great sci-fi system. The Expanse is out. You can get the RPG for it. We were talking about that in the last live chat. There's several seasons of that. Farscape would be a lot of fun. Was it Andromeda with Kevin Sorbo? Andromeda with Kevin Sorbo. There's so many.
Cheesy but enjoyable.
There's so many places where you can grab inspiration from. I've been kind of wanting to run a Hard Luck Hank sci-fi game, which is it's
a novel series, right?
It's a novel series, but it's very written kind of like tongue-in-cheek. And if you look at the titles of the books,
right,
like the main character's like catchphrase is suck face or something like that. I haven't listened to those in a while, but it's hilarious. Like, literally, the very first novel starts off with him being up on like a monorail system, and he's just so big and dense, and it takes him so long to get anywhere, and he exerts so much energy. He just walks off the platform and falls, and people like run to see if he's dead or not. But he's fine. But it's just out of sheer laziness, and it's kind of like he's kind of like a gangster. And that specializes in negotiations because he's like, pretty much bulletproof. After a while, they exhaust all the shooting options, and there's nothing left but to talk.
But I mean, there are plenty of ways to to play sci-fi if that's where you're looking to go, and you don't hear this all that often. But I will absolutely say that if you're looking to play a sci-fi game and you're not talking about Spelljammer, just put D&D aside and pick up a different rule book, because D&D does not do science fiction. It does science fantasy or, future fantasy, but it does not do science fiction all that well. I would just...
Yeah, I think for Saber Dice, I think the next game we're going to is Starfinder. And I don't know, like, if I'm not like super stoked to play that system per se. I mean, I know I'll have fun with the game,
right?
Because I like that group, and I do like some of the things in it, but it's just it's a little crunchier than I'm into nowadays.
I get it. I understand. I played a single game of Starfinder, and I wouldn't have a problem, picking it up and playing another game, or getting involved in a short campaign arc. Just because it is a pretty cool system, but you have to put the finder part aside and get into the game and not have to worry so much about all the crunch that goes into it. I know that after having played the game that I did and the typical style of what my role playing is, I have to put aside some of the different predilections that I would have and be like, all right, how do I make the character that I'm going to find more enjoyable in this system, and go with that.
Yeah, I'm probably going to play a Yasaki, probably either a soldier or mechanic, but I'm not. But for the mechanic, I'm definitely going with like combat drone or the one that makes them basically cyborgs.
All right, so the Yasaki is the mouse person.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I definitely want to play against type with that and make. I'm probably just gonna model him off of Rocket Raccoon. To be honest with you.
Nice. I don't remember what the little module was, but they had these little like brightly colored
Scalamanders. Yeah, we played those. They're basically like stitches.
I would love to be like, hey, can I play one of those instead?
Yeah, I think Jacob might play one of those.
Nice.
I'm not sure.
I'm silly, and when you start talking about, hey, there's aliens, look, how can I play something silly? I mean, clearly I like Stitch, So
I want to say when we played the Skillamander episode, I did implement the crate tactic.
What is the crate tactic?
We cut out the bottom of a crate.
Yes!
Yes! Because like the concept was the ship's AI went crazy and took over all the robots, and so like they were trying to imprison all the life forms and stuff.
Yes.
And they kept calling us pets. So once we realized what the problem was, we like a bunch of us got in a crate and we just yeah.
Glory,
yes.
glory.
That's the way you does it.
So, but yeah, that's where I would enjoy going.
That's driving you nuts.
It is.
And I'm gonna just keep switching and moving it around.
You are.
Nerdarchy Doug is definitely disagreeing with you, and says you can play D&D with hyperlanes.
To be honest, I'm not aware of the hyperlane stuff. I have not read it, but Doug and I we don't always agree. So
Doug,
you are more than welcome.
Angry GM, you can play any wrong way you want, man.
I have actually heard good things about hyperlanes, but honestly, I know there are so many people out there who just want to shoehorn D&D into every other little box that they can, and there are systems that are specifically designed for X, and if you want to play X, play X.
Well, it does. D&D does work fine if someone goes and totally retools the system for you, like they do with hyperlanes or with oh man, why can't I think of the other game? I played it. I own it. My brain. Doug, what am I thinking about? Tell me what I'm thinking. But it is like they both came out around the same time. So it was hyperlanes and damn
it. Doug says plus I just like busting tense balls.
I'm the shoehorner.
Well, I'm.
You know what? If we play another Supers game, you got to play that character. We'll do a textile version of a Supers game, and Doug, you can play the shoehorner.
Well, I mean, at that point in time, then you could have somebody else be the one that's throwing the shoes.
Nah, Harbinger is another one. I have not really looked much at that. Harbinger is Matt Click and Absolute Tabletop over there. Those guys are they're the ones that put out Harbinger. It's Rich Lescaflaire's game. Damn it! Why can't I think of this? It's driving me nuts now. Folks, I blame the late '80s, early '90s.
So did you play Nightlight? Because Doug says it's the best superhero.
It's Nightlight. No, that's what he played.
That is the best. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even remember my guy's name. But I played a pyro guy who was just or it was not
Esper
pyro,
Genesis. That's it.
It was a plasma, not pyro, and he was like. He was basically indestructible in anything that game did. But for your most recent superhero game, my guy that mucked with gravity, and he was Gravitar, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And that wound up Gravitar wound up being the name of a villain in Flash.
Mm.
So I feel like I stole a name that I had no concept of.
Really important question here from Eric. Hi, him. Is pork roll or Taylor ham? It's clearly pork roll.
Yeah, I think so.
Like even if we go to Wawa, it's a pork roll sandwich. It's not Taylor ham.
Yeah.
Of course. And that will be the last question that we answer for today. We're going to end on a really important note. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Yes, after the regular show, we do these every week. On the Patreon. I forgot to click a button this time, so everyone who found it got to hang out with us. So if you want to do this with us every Saturday, you can for as little as $1 a month. So until next time, stay nerdy.